Imagine being 65 years old, broke, sleeping in your car, with nothing but a pressure cooker and a chicken recipe. Now imagine getting rejected 1,009 times in a row. Most people would quit. Harland Sanders didn't. Today, his face is on restaurants in 150 countries. His company generates over $30 billion a year. This is the story of KFC, and it started with a man who refused to accept no for an answer. Colonel Sanders is one of the most recognizable faces on the planet. That white suit, that goatee, that secret recipe. But most people don't know the real story. They don't know he was fired from dozens of jobs before age 40. They don't know he started his empire at an age when most people are retired. And they definitely don't know how many times the world told him to give up. KFC isn't just a fast food chain, it's proof that timing doesn't matter. Age doesn't matter, what matters is belief. By the end of this story, you'll understand why KFC became a global phenomenon. You'll learn how a single man turned rejection into resilience. And you'll see why franchising became the blueprint for modern business empires. But first, we need to go back, way back, to a small town in Indiana where a boy lost everything before he even began. Harland David Sanders was born in 1890 in Henryville, Indiana. His father died when he was just 5 years old. His mother had to work. So at age 6, Harland became responsible for feeding his younger siblings. That's when he learned to cook, not as a hobby, as survival. By age 7, he could cook a full meal. By age 10, he was working as a farmhand to help support the family. School dropped out in 7th grade. Sanders worked every job imaginable. Streetcar conductor, soldier, railroad fireman, insurance salesman, tire salesman. He failed at almost all of them. He got into fistfights. He was temperamental. He couldn't hold down a job. At age 40, he was running a service station in Corbin, Kentucky. Not glamorous, not exciting, just trying to survive. But Sanders had one thing going for him. He could cook. Travelers passing through his gas station started asking for food. So Sanders started serving meals at a small dining table in the back of the station. Word spread fast. His fried chicken was different. He used a pressure cooker instead of a traditional skillet. It cooked faster and stayed juicier. He developed his own blend of 11 herbs and spices. People drove hours just to taste it. In 1935, the governor of Kentucky made him an honorary Kentucky colonel. A marketing gimmick, but Sanders leaned into it. He started wearing the white suit. He grew the goatee. He became the colonel. By 1939, he had a proper restaurant, Sanders Court and Cafe. It seated 142 people. Business was booming. Then everything fell apart. In the early 1950s, a new interstate highway was being built. It bypassed Corbin completely. Overnight, Sanders' restaurant lost 90% of its traffic. He tried to keep it going. He couldn't. In 1952, he was forced to sell the restaurant at auction to pay his debts. He was 62 years old. He had $105 from his first Social Security check. No restaurant, no savings, no plan. Most people would retire, accept defeat. Sanders had a different idea. He had his recipe, he had his pressure cooker, and he had a vision: franchising. He would travel the country convincing restaurant owners to use his recipe. In exchange, he'd take 4 cents for every chicken they sold. Simple, brilliant, insane. There was just one problem: nobody wanted it. Sanders drove from town to town in his white Cadillac. He'd walk into restaurants unannounced. He'd cook his chicken right there in the kitchen. He'd give samples to the owner. Then he'd pitch his franchising deal. Rejection after rejection after rejection. We already have chicken. Nobody wants this. You're too old for this game. Sanders kept going. He slept in his car to save money. He ate his own fried chicken for meals. His wife left him. She couldn't handle the instability. 1,000 rejections, then 1,001, 1,002. He was 65 years old, living out of his car, pitching fried chicken to strangers. Most people would have called him crazy. He kept driving. In 1952, Sanders walked into a restaurant in Salt Lake City, Utah. The owner was Pete Harmon. Sanders did his usual pitch, cook the chicken, offer the deal. Harmon tasted it, and he said yes, one yes. After 1,009 no's, that's all it took. Harmon opened the first official Kentucky Fried Chicken franchise in 1952. He added Sanders chicken to his menu. Sales exploded. Word spread to other restaurant owners. If Harmon was making money, maybe this old man's recipe was legit. By 1955, Sanders had multiple franchises across the country. By 1960, he had over 200 locations, but Sanders didn't stop there. He understood something most entrepreneurs miss: branding matters more than product. He perfected his image: the white suit, the black tie, the cane. He drove from franchise to franchise, making sure the chicken was cooked exactly right. If it wasn't, he'd throw it in the trash and yell at the owner. The Colonel became a character, a personality, a brand. People didn't just buy chicken, they bought a story. And that story was spreading fast. By 1964, Kentucky Fried Chicken had over 600 locations across the US and Canada, but Sanders was 73 years old. He was tired, he wanted to slow down, enjoy life. So he made a decision that would change everything. He sold the company for $2 million to a group of investors led by John Y. Brown Jr. $2 million in 1960 is about $20 million today. Not bad for a guy who was broke 12 years earlier. But here's the twist: Sanders kept his salary as a brand ambassador and quality controller. $40,000 a year. Plus the right to travel and promote KFC. The new owners saw what Sanders had built, and they accelerated it. They standardized the menu, they built commissaries for consistency. They expanded internationally: Japan in 1970, Australia, Europe. They introduced the bucket, the red and white stripe design. The iconic branding, KFC became a global phenomenon. By 1971, there were over 3,500 KFC locations worldwide. In 1986, PepsiCo acquired KFC for $840 million. Then in 1997, PepsiCo spun off its restaurants into a new company, Yum! Brands. Today, Yum! Brands owns KFC, Taco Bell, and Pizza Hut. KFC alone operates in over 150 countries with more than 29,000 locations. Annual revenue over $30 billion. All from a recipe a 65-year-old man refused to let die. So how does KFC actually make money? Three main revenue streams. First, franchise fees. KFC doesn't own most of its restaurants, franchisees do. KFC charges them an initial franchise fee around $45,000. Then they take 4 to 5% of gross sales as an ongoing royalty, plus another 4 to 5% for national advertising. Second, company-owned stores. KFC operates around 5% of its locations directly. These generate higher margins but require more capital. Third, supply chain. KFC controls much of its supply chain. They sell ingredients, packaging, and equipment to franchisees. It's a hidden profit center most people don't see. The beauty of the model: low capital, high scalability. Franchisees take the risk. KFC takes the percentage. This is the model Ray Kroc used for McDonald's. This is the model that built Subway, Domino's, and Starbucks. Sanders didn't invent franchising, but he perfected it. And he proved you don't need to be young to build an empire. But KFC's rise wasn't without controversy. In the 1970s, Sanders became openly critical of the company he'd sold. He called the new gravy wallpaper paste. He said the mashed potatoes tasted like glue. He even tried to sue KFC for misusing his image. The lawsuit failed, but it showed something important. Sanders cared more about quality than profit. The new owners cared about scale. That tension still exists today. KFC has faced criticism for unhealthy food, poor labor practices, and environmental issues. In 2012, a supplier scandal in China nearly destroyed KFC's reputation there. Sales dropped 40% overnight. In the US, KFC struggled to compete with Chick-fil-A and Popeyes. Younger consumers saw it as outdated. Too greasy, too unhealthy, brands tried to modernize. They introduced grilled chicken. They redesigned stores. They launched delivery apps. Some worked, some didn't. But here's what never changed: the brand. That white suit, that goatee, that secret recipe. Even when the food disappointed, the story endured. Let's go back to where we started. A 65-year-old man sleeping in his car. Rejected 1,009 times. Most people see that as failure. Harland Sanders saw it as data. 1,009 no's just meant he hadn't found the right yes yet. And when he found it, he changed the world. Today, KFC serves over 12 million customers every day. The secret recipe is locked in a vault in Kentucky. Only a handful of people know the full formula. The Colonel passed away in 1980 at age 90, but his face still hangs in 29,000 restaurants across the planet. His story still inspires millions of entrepreneurs because KFC isn't about chicken. It's about belief. It's about resilience. It's about refusing to quit when the world tells you you're done. Sanders didn't start KFC because he was young, wealthy, or connected. He started it because he had no other choice. And that desperation, that refusal to accept defeat, that's what built a $30 billion empire. Here are the lessons every entrepreneur should take from Colonel Sanders and KFC. 1. Age is irrelevant. Sanders started franchising at 65. Most people think that's retirement age. He proved it's just the beginning if you have the right mindset. 2. Rejection is data, not destiny. 1,009 no's didn't mean his idea was bad. It meant he hadn't found the right partner yet. Persistence outlasts doubt. 3. Branding is everything. Sanders didn't just sell chicken. He sold a story, a character, a promise. The white suit and goatee made him unforgettable. 4. Franchising equals leverage. Sanders couldn't afford to build 1,000 restaurants. So he let others do it and took a percentage. Low risk, infinite scale. 5. Quality obsession builds trust. Even after selling the company, Sanders drove to franchises to check the chicken. He cared, and people felt that. So here's my question for you. What's your 1,009th rejection? What idea have you given up on because it didn't work the first time, or the 10th time, or the 100th? Sanders proved that success isn't about talent. It's not about luck. It's about showing up one more time than everyone else. If this story inspired you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more documentaries on the world's most iconic brands and founders. And drop a comment. What business empire should we break down next? Because the best stories, they're just getting started.